This week in comic books, Superman number 78, issue 1 came out, and I kind of wish it didn't. I'm just throwing that out there now. I can already feel the thumbs down, but hear me out. Over in the land of DC, Darkheart number 1 came out, and I'm intrigued by this one. I'm not overly impressed with it, but I'll read some more of it. Over in the land of Independence, Action Tank number 1 comes out, and I got grifted. Like straight up conned out of that one. We're going to talk about that too. And all the other great comic books I got this week. We're going to talk good about some. Only some. Let's hit that intro. Hey, you wonderful weirdos. I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, you're super cool for swinging by. Love having you here. We're going to talk about this week's comic books and what we got. So let's jump right into it with Batman, number 78, issue number 1. So as you heard in the intro, I'm not particularly interested in this. If you've read comic books before and you understand the Brainiac story, we kind of already know where they're going to take this story. They kind of gave up the ghost in that in several panels in this. And it was really kind of a letdown. I was really kind of hoping for something, you know, like a refresh but 78 style story. Instead I'm getting a rehashing of a story from the 80s. Yeah, the 80s. Only we're going to put it into 1978, which really isn't that big of a difference to me. The Brainiac story and him and Kandar and the whole 9 yards. I just wish they didn't go this route. I hope I'm wrong. Like that's my speculation on it, but it's where they're going. It's obvious. Let's see here. Detective Comics number 1042. So Vile, right? The parasite guy. He gets it handed to him by Huntress. Huntress takes care of that body. But that wasn't particularly interesting. I thought they took care of the character just a little too quick in this one. Like it was just a little too easy. But they left it open for him to return by having one of his little egg thingies out of his head kind of go down a sewer drain, which was kind of morbidly disturbing. But hey, let's roll on. The backstory in this with Red Hood and Deb Donovan, the reporter, because being a reporter now seems to be a superpower. We're rolling with it. They're on the case of some missing bodies out there. It basically ends with Red Hood giving her old Louisville Slugger to the back of the head, even though they're kind of sort of partners. It's awkward. If you read this, let me know what you thought about it. I just found it kind of, I don't know. It was weird. All right, over in Action Comics, I'm digging Action Comics. This is high up on my pull list. When I see this book in the piles, I get excited. So in this one, we get this kind of interesting kind of standoff between the government. We'll call it, in this particular case, it's the U.S. government, but it doesn't really matter. And then Atlantis, and right, they want the rune stone. They're blocking off trading ports, right? So Superman takes it upon himself, right, to ignore these two nations that are having an issue, go in and take the rune stone. And the question gets brought up: do you have the authority to do that? You can make the emotional argument all day long, you know, that you're doing the right thing. But if nobody sees it as being the right thing, is it the right thing? So I think that's interesting. I'm not betting on one side or the other in this. My question is because you can, does that mean you're automatically allowed? Because you have a good reason, because of feelings or whatever the case may be. He's in an emotional state right now, knowing that his ancient Kryptonian fellow Kryptonian people from an ancient time, you know, had been enslaved and even brainwashed to some degree. Also, our character here, and I'm gonna mess this up. If you can spell it phonetically in the chat, please do. I want to say Thoila. She's like, she ends up, you know, committing treason against her will almost, right? Because her buddies were getting out of line. So now she's kind of happened to back that horse of the super family with Lois Lane and all that going on now. So she's stuck in that predicament. I like this. I like this concept of the chains. I like this whole thing. The next story with Midnighter and Mr. Miracle. To be honest, I've never been a Midnighter follower. This is one of those stories. So the backstory was meh to me at best. And I know this is really going to shock some people. I'm not a huge Mr. Miracle fan either. It's basically just Space MacGyver with a boombox. Not the cool one either. Like the one. I don't know. All right, Icon of Rocket. I like this. This is doing something really cool. They're going to start playing with history a little bit about how the president of the Confederacy was actually killed by Icon, and there's this cat named Benedict Lord who said he took his title and just made it his last name. So Lord Benedict. You see where they went there, and he's like super old too. He was around during that time and even older. So if you don't know who Lord Benedict is from your history, I highly suggest go take a look at it. I think it would only enhance the story. Plus, Icon and Rocket are proving themselves to be quite the formidable team, taking down local crime. You know, in that classic comic book story. Nothing really on the nose about this. It's just doing its thing, and I'm really enjoying that. Thank you, writer. Thank you. This is beautifully done, and I really enjoy this story. But definitely another one I get very excited about over in DC. Another one I get excited about, but this one was kind of just a filler issue for me, was Robin number 5. First off, that cover, right? For some reason, I keep thinking Jubilee. I don't know if it's the bubblegum. Maybe it's the bubblegum, because the character doesn't act like it. Anyway, in this one, you know, the Bat family catches up to Robin, and they're like, hey, you need to settle down. He's like, ha, 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 race me, fools. So they're like rooftop jumping, apparently. It's a game they used to play. So they're rooftop jumping around. He's taking out each one because he does the Batman thing where he kind of knows everybody's weaknesses, even to the point of showing, like, emotion to Red Hood and freezing him in his tracks. At the end, Nightwing catches up to him. He's like, ha, ha, I got you. And he's like, hey, but I didn't get you. Wink, right? He's kind of... right? And oh, by the way, happy birthday. Here's a stick from my trip, my time as working in the circus on the high swinging thingings. I don't know why that's escaping me right now. It will come to me in the middle of the show and we'll have an awkward moment. But anyway, gives him that. And he's like, oh, thank you. I'm emotionally ready for the big tournament, and the big tournament's going to be kicking off hopefully in the next issue. That's what they're alluding to at the end of this. I hope that's what happens. Because that's really why I'm on board with this. I just want to see cool superpowers, some characters I've never seen before, do some really cool stuff. It looks like we're getting to there. All right. Let's see here. Last in DC, we got Superman and Lobo. Little on the nose on this one. LexCorp apparently has a social media, conglomerate, if you will, and they're really kind of manipulating algorithms, which I'm sorry if you have any type of social platform out there and you ran it, you're going to do it too. Like, you can't help but add a human factor into any type of algorithm. You're going to manipulate situations. All right, so they kind of take that in here, and it's very obvious, what they're kind of talking about in here. A little on the nose, like I said. But what they're going to do is they're going to take them back to their planets and make them switch places. So, like, Superman has got to go to Lobo's planet, and Lobo's got to go to Krypton, and they got to, like, experience each other's, lives or whatever. A lot of understanding going to happen in this. These stories are always kind of, life lessons learned, that kind of stuff for grown men. I don't know. This is going to be a budgeting thing for me if I pick up book number 2. So generally, I have a finite amount of cash that I use for my comic book collecting. And when I get the things I know I want, right, it's even more finite, right? So I got to pick and choose what I want in there. And honestly, if there's nothing else, sure, because it's a pretty expensive book. So, I don't know. Moving on. Cable Reloaded. All right, so this is just basically an homage to him and the various teams he's been on, because they took a hodgepodge of all of them. Like the Exterminators and, what was the other one? The one with Cannonball and X-Factor, I think, I want to say. Yeah. All right, they throw Rocket Raccoon in here because you need a cuddly animal to help tell this story. Basically, Dormammu is trying to take over all the magical planets. Him and the team have to get a particular weapon from this planet, and we kind of go through the hijinks about how they all know each other. It's like a little wink to comic book collectors that actually read some of those lesser issues of comics, I guess is the best way to describe it. That's what I'm going with on this one. But for the most part, I don't know. Good shout out to the 90s there, and just ridiculous man booby muscles. Good stuff. All right, speaking of 90s, and how old is Darkhawk? I'll have to look that up. So Darkheart Returns. Snaps in this. Asian kid, super good at basketball. Like everybody loves him. Like he's a superstar. And then I was thinking, oh, we're gonna do that thing, and somebody's just gonna give him the power. Like I thought that, and I was like, please don't do it, please don't. And then I turned the page and it's like, no, he's got MS and he's losing everything. And I was like, oh, hardship. Oh, good. That's where you build from. And then like the Darkhawk gem, I forget what it's called, crash lands back onto Earth for some reason. I'm sure we'll get a backstory to that. And immediately he's Darkhawk. I thought he learned the powers a little too quickly. Like he picked it up and he's like fighting villains all of a sudden, right? I was like, okay, I get it. We've had a lot of story in here already. So you kind of had to speed that bit up. I got it. And also his friend, his best friend throughout the book, is working for the gang that's running around and stealing stuff all the time. And apparently they're somewhat sophisticated and he's kind of the rookie of the group. So for the most part, I'm interested enough to read number 2, as long as we start the building up part. Give me a quick montage where he learns his stuff instead of just knowing it, or maybe that's the way the suit works. Give me an explanation why he knows it so quick, and that story's lined out, right? Like that, you can just chase that down, and it would be great. All right, Amazing Fantasies. Pick of the week. Like, seriously, this is so fun. It takes place in a fantastic world of fantasy and myth. Cap is trying to liberate an entire village of people. Black Widow's is going to marry, or has been asked to marry a king to unite a country. And Spider-Man's running around trying to tame dragons so he can help the battles to come for another village. So they're all spread out all over this mystical land. And at the end of this, we get the really cool thing that they sometimes do in great fantasy story. They add a sci-fi element to it, like the alien thing, the ridiculous thing. So they're going to do that in here as well, as we saw with the aliens at the end. So this is just fun, and it's dumb fun, and it's ridiculous, but it kind of gives us what we really want to see our heroes to be, right? To overcome and do good things in a place where it probably doesn't happen a whole lot. Our heroes being heroes and showing people how to be heroes. That's the great part of this story. So yeah, pick of the week, definitely. Highly enjoyed that. That, and I love like fantasy type with comic book characters in it. That's a thing for me. All right. Captain America number 3. Thank God they had this cover, because some of the other covers I was like, oh no. So, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a pretty cool cover. So we got another Captain America, native Captain America, I guess is what we can call him, or indigenous Captain America. I don't know what the terms are these days. I'm just going with it. Let me know in the comments if I got it wrong. But this one was kind of cool. I like this. We got the average Joe Gomez. And apparently he's a Captain America fan. And, he's just an everyday working kind of guy. And then, he picks up his shield and he does, good guy stuff. That's okay. Some may say that it's kind of boring. And I'm like, I get it. And they brought back Wrecking Crew, of course. And also Winter Soldier is going to be helping out from here on out as well, because that's what we need, another person that carried the shield to go visit people that are carrying the shield. Okay. just let that one sink in. All right. Doctor Strange in this one, Strange Academy. In this one, Calvin, our little fat kid from the rough, from the foster homes, rough side of the tracks type of story. His jacket apparently was Mr. Despair, which eats, like sad, fear, all those bad emotions, right? And it's out of control. Drum, the little despair demon, of depression or whatever, the emo girl in the group. Yeah, we'll call her the emo girl in the group. She gets this bright idea to overfeed, right, Mr. Despair, to the point to where he just basically begs that somebody kills him, right? Now look, I'm not gonna lie. There has been nights where I have overate, and I was like, "Oh my God, just let death slowly wash over me," because it was just too much, right? Try not to do that anymore. But let's be honest, a cheap buffet is a cheap buffet. I'm just saying. Anyway, so she eats them, right? And there's a lot of like especially in folklore, I think is the best thing, where you kind of eat the despair of something else. It's a very common thing to do. It's a very heroic and aspirational thing to do. Generally, how the story goes. And no different in here, where she actually had to eat it. Now, my question is since the jacket was kind of the source of all of Calvin's powers, are we going to kick the little fat kid out of Strange Academy? What's his magic thing now? What makes him the reason to be there? One would argue to learn magic, but everybody kind of showed up with some sort of ability to do magic, and they're just there to learn to control it and enhance it. So, are we really kicking the fat kid out? That's hard. That's rough. Poor kid. Oh. All right, moving on to Thor. So this doesn't happen in the comic book, and that made me sad. But we did get a great opening with Thor's vision of Thanos, and the Infinity Stones are encrusted in the Mjolnir as he's holding it. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for this to happen. And we get hints about Black Winter coming back. We were hinted in earlier issues about him. We even seen him. I can't wait to get some more of that, because that looks like it's going to be a nightmare. Oh, great. But also we find out that he's been called to a portion of Asgard, as so his father. And apparently Mom's had enough of everybody acting like babies, and everybody wants to know where his hammer is, because he kind of just left it someplace for reasons. He's an emotional man right now. He's even got a man bun or ponytail. I'm calling it a man bun. So, he's a little sensitive right now. Okay, let's go on to Once and Future. So in this, the other world, our world are clashed together, and we just kind of got the rules of how everything works in this. Does the rest of the world see what's happening here? Was one good question that almost never gets addressed in a comic book, but that was kind of addressed in here. Who are the new players now? We got more knights coming in here, and of course still the battle. Granny's still sarcastic, but she doesn't even know what's going on, because she's spent her entire life trying to stop this moment from happening, but apparently that didn't happen. So now Duncan and the ragtag team of English people have to fight King Arthur and demons. So let's see what happens there. Moving on, Department of Truth. Hey, big twist in this one. Hawk, the guy who is this kind of like this a-hole realist, he's working for Black Hat, and he met our hero way back in the day when he was a kid. That was kind of the flashback in here. Really cool things with how they kind of played with Waco, and how they use this kind of power manipulation thing to get people to believe things, and how it can be used and get out of control in this. Explained very vividly in here. One would say it was almost over-explained, but I really liked that, because I was still curious about that. Also, they kind of addressed this, how to create a story that's obviously fake, but still have believable little bits kind of drop off and make those into things too, so it kind of tailors off, used in social media and things like that. I thought that was ingenious how they explained that. I love that. I think I don't like that as a comic book, but it's just a great read. I should have just got the whole thing in a graphic novel and been done with it. All right, something is killing the kids. Hey, remember when Erica got laid down on the altar, and then we had an issue? Like the next issue came out? Okay, well, this issue goes back to there and tells us what happened to her while she was on the altar. I do not like the concept of a hero's biggest superpower is to stand there and do nothing. That's literally what she did in here. I know you can make the argument she could have ran away, but she came back and confronted her fear. Yep, she relived the moment. She dealt with her past. That's not heroic. That's life. At some point you have to do that. So I didn't find that overly exciting. I'm not saying it was a bad story. Yeah, I guess I kind of am. I'm kind of saying it's a bad story. But we also find out that generally this monster thing, the little stuffed animals they carry with them, or some of the actual monsters in there entrapped in there, which we kind of, again, already knew in Volume 1. They explained it there. But this kind of gave us a panel of it where they showed it to us. So, I don't know. I think I'm getting kind of petered out on that one. All right, last but not least, Action Tank. If you haven't picked up this week's comic books and you're about to go out and pick this up, do not bother picking this up. This is a con. This is a grift. This is to get you to buy a paperback of horrible art and horrible storytelling. I can already tell you how this is going to end. Literally, you read through this and you're like, okay, maybe I'll give it an issue too. And then you see the advertisement for the full story. And I hate it when comic book companies do that. I'm just like, oh, that's garbage. The art's not overly great in here. It's very simplistic. The story's going to be very simplistic. It's just a kid out of his element. He's been given this very special suit. So why is he being tested if the suit can do everything for you? Question is always there. And it's just blah at best. Everybody sounds the same when you read them in here. It's just not really that good. It was my blast of the week, actually. All right, guys, that's my haul this week. What else is going on? Blaster Stash It, Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. We got a live chat, and we want to talk comic books with all of you. Come on in. We'll chit-chat about comic books. We'll have a good time with it. Myself, Spectacular Spider Grandpa, and Huey. Also in the community, Whack Comics has still got their 1,000 sub contest going on. You definitely want to check that out. Cardboard Crazies has got a contest going on as well. Check that out. And of course, one of our favorite people in the community, Mark from Legion of Comics. He has his 900 sub going on right now. You definitely want to join on that. Do a video, or at least comment. Listen to the rules, comment. Get some cool comic books out of it. Be part of, all of us here. We want to be part of you. You want to be part of us. That's awkward as all get out. But I got nothing else. So I'll talk to you all later. Bye.